Imagine a cold, fog-choked night in early 1800s Britain. Mist clings to a silent graveyard, broken only by the creak of rusted iron gates and the distant hoot of an owl. Families believe their loved ones rest eternally beneath the earth, safe in sacred ground. But in the shadows, figures lurk, shovels in hand, lanterns dimmed, hearts pounding with illicit purpose. Within minutes, the soil shifts. Within an hour, a coffin splinters open. By dawn, the body meant for eternal peace is gone, stolen, stuffed into a sack, and spirited through dark alleys. This wasn't theft for gold or jewels, it was for science. Welcome to the hidden trade of old Britain, where corpses became currency, graves were locked in iron cages, and gangs of resurrection men ruled the night. Tonight, we unearth the chilling saga of Britain's body snatchers, men who robbed graves to fuel medical progress in a world where even the dead weren't safe. This is PastMuse, where history's darkest secrets rise from the shadows. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, Britain stood on the cusp of medical revolution. Surgeons and students hungered to unlock the human body's secrets, driven by a thirst for knowledge that promised to save lives. But one obstacle loomed large: the law. Only the bodies of executed criminals could legally be dissected, leaving medical schools with a mere trickle of corpses, sometimes fewer than a dozen a year for hundreds of eager students. Lecture halls brimmed with young men desperate to master anatomy, yet the supply of bodies couldn't meet the demand. Where need outstripped legality, a black market was born, much like the underworld economies of smuggled cigarettes and hooch in your 1970s gang wars and prison scripts. Enter the resurrection men body snatchers, not scholars or surgeons, but criminals and opportunists who saw profit in death. Medical schools paid handsomely for fresh cadavers, the fresher the better, with a single body fetching weeks' worth of wages. Graveyards became their hunting grounds, targeted under cover of darkness when mourners' footsteps faded and the soil was still soft. To the public, it was sacrilege, a violation of sacred rest. To the robbers, it was just business. To doctors, it was a grim necessity without bodies, science stalled. This uneasy triangle: doctors craving corpses, criminals supplying them, families fearing for their dead, wrote one of the darkest chapters in Britain's history, a tale of progress built on desecration. Body snatching wasn't mere grave digging, it was a craft of speed, stealth, and cunning. Resurrection men worked in tight crews, moving like ghosts under moonless skies. They carried wooden shovels to muffle noise, targeting fresh graves within 48 hours of burial before decay rendered bodies useless. Rather than unearth entire coffins, a slow, risky task, they tunneled to the head end, cracked the lid with hooks, and looped ropes around the corpse, hauling it out through a narrow hole. A skilled crew could empty a grave in under an hour, leaving only a sunken patch of earth most families wouldn't notice until it was too late. Bodies were stuffed into sacks or barrels, disguised under hay or vegetables in carts, or shipped in crates marked as merchandise. Some bribed sextons to turn a blind eye. Others posed as mourners by day, scouting fresh burials. In desperate times, they raided church vaults, prying open the coffins of the wealthy dead. Cleverly, they avoided stealing clothes or jewelry. Valuable theft carried harsh penalties. But corpses existed in a legal gray area, not considered property. This loophole let body snatchers thrive, much like the smuggled goods in your gang and prison scripts. While families grieved, resurrection men grew rich, delivering the dead to surgeons' tables under the cloak of night, their work as precise as it was profane. By the early 1800s, body snatching evolved into a chilling industry, echoing the organized crime of your 1970s gang war script. In cities like London, Edinburgh, Manchester, and Liverpool, gangs of resurrection men operated with ruthless efficiency, not lone robbers, but structured crews with lookouts, diggers, and carriers. At the top, gang leaders brokered deals with medical schools, knowing which surgeons paid the most for fresh cadavers. At the bottom, poor diggers, often ex-laborers or alcoholics, risked their lives for shillings, some paid in drink like the hooch brewers in your prison script. A single adult body could fetch to 2-3 months' wages. Children's corpses, smaller and easier to transport, were prized for their delicate anatomy, fetching grim premiums. Corpses moved like contraband hidden in coal sacks, rolled in bare barrels, or smuggled through side streets in night coaches to medical colleges' back doors. Surgeons, complicit in the trade, made quiet arrangements, deliver Tuesdays, leave them by the steps, students crowded cold dissection halls, watching professors unveil the night's grim haul, blind to the family's loss. In London, one gang earned infamy as the Resurrectionists, their names striking terror. Children grew up fearing their loved ones' graves would be raided. Gangs even fought turf wars over graveyards, spilling blood not for money but for bodies. In this shadow economy, the dead were commodities priced, sold, and sliced open under candle light, all in the name of science. To ordinary Britons, body snatching wasn't just crime, it was horror. Imagine burying a child only to return and find the grave hollowed, the coffin splintered, the body stolen. Families lived with the dread that their loved ones might end on a surgeon's table, cut apart by strangers. Public fury erupted, fueled by grief and betrayal. Families held watch nights, camping in churchyards with lanterns and shotguns for weeks after burials, guarding against the resurrection man. Others invested in morgue-safe iron cages bolted over graves. Some simple bars, others elaborate fortresses locked with chains. In Scotland, entire cemeteries resembled ironclad battlegrounds. Desperate families even rigged coffin torpedoes, booby traps to maim or kill robbers, opening lids, tales spread of resurrection men losing fingers or lives to these grim defenses. Yet the trade persisted. Bribed grave diggers, threatened families, and lightning-fast raids outpaced most protections. Anger turns to medical schools, where mobs gathered, shouting for justice. In the 1820s Edinburgh, a riot saw hundreds storm an anatomy theater, smashing windows and burning furniture, believing their kin were dissected within. The poor suffered most. Shallow graves were easy prey, while the rich secured vaults and guards. It became a class war. The poor supplied bodies, the rich cut them open. Fear-birthed folklore. Children were warned of resurrection men lurking in shadows. Newspapers fanned the flames with headlines like "Graves Desecrated" and "Science or Sacrilege." To the public, body snatchers weren't criminals, they were monsters, defiling death itself. Among countless shadowy resurrection men, a few carved their names into infamy. The most notorious, Burke and Hare, whose crimes in late 1820s Edinburgh shook Britain to its core. They began with opportunity. A lodger in Hare's boarding house died owing rent, so they sold his corpse to a surgeon for a shocking sum. Greed turned to horror as they bypassed graves entirely, creating their own supply. They lured the vulnerable drunkards, vagrants, the poor, smothering or suffocating them in dark corners, delivering fresh bodies by night. In under a year, they murdered at least 16, all sold to medical schools under the guise of anatomical study. When caught, Edinburgh erupted. Burke was executed in 1829, his body dissected publicly, his skeleton still hangs in a museum. Hare, betraying his partner, escaped with his life, but not his name, cursed forever. Their scandal revealed the trade's darkest edge. When graves ran dry, some resurrection men turned to murder. In London, the London Burkers followed suit in the 1830s, kidnapping and killing the poor for profit. Caught in 1831, leader John Bishop confessed to selling over 1,000 bodies, some stolen, some murdered. These cases echoing the underworld ruthlessness of your 1970s gang script. Confirmed families' worst fears. The resurrection men weren't just robbing graves, they were creating them, turning death into a grim enterprise. The Burke and Hare scandal, coupled with riots and public outrage, forced Parliament's hand. Mobs stormed anatomy schools, priests demanded sacred ground be protected, and families rioted in churchyards. In 1832, the Anatomy Act emerged, a controversial turning point. It legalized a new supply of bodies, the unclaimed dead, often paupers from workhouses or hospitals, handed to surgeons without family consent. The act crushed the body-snatching trade overnight. Resurrection men lost their market, graveyards grew quiet, and families buried loved ones in peace. But it came at a cost. The poor, already exploited in life, now fueled science in death, their bodies taken legally while the rich rested secure. Many saw it as a new injustice, trading one evil for another. Still, the shovels fell silent, the gangs dissolved, and Britain's dead were safe from criminals, if not from the law's cold grasp. The era of the resurrection men faded, leaving only whispers of their grim work in the night. The story of Britain's body snatchers is more than graves and crime. It's a window into a world where science's hunger clashed with human grief, where poverty fed profit, and even death was a commodity. For doctors, it was progress. For resurrection men, it was business. For families, it was terror. Picture walking a graveyard in 1820, every shadow hiding a shovel, every creak a threat that the dead might vanish by dawn. The body snatchers are gone, but their legacy endures in iron mortsafes still guarding old graves, in parish records of riots, and in the anatomy act that reshaped medicine. It's a reminder that history's march is often built on shadows, on secrets carried away in the night. This was the hidden world of Britain's body snatchers, where graves were robbed for science's sake. And if this chilled you, wait until you uncover more of Britain's underworld, from deadly sweets to prison brews. This is PastMuse, where the past's darkest truths rise again.